And the top of the evening to you on a Tuesday night, the 10th day of December 2024. Grateful to have everybody with us in the house. And we've got an exciting evening ahead. And it would not be a normal evening if we didn't have this man on one time a week. And we had your partner in crime last night, Akers, and Jeemes Akers on the line with us tonight on a Tuesday night to talk about some stuff with us. Good to see you, buddy. How are you?
I am doing fine. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing quite well, my friend. Rainy days in Georgia and Florida and Alabama and down south and Tennessee, and but at least it's not 20 below zero like it is in some places up the world in northern Antarctica. But we'll take this for December right now. Hey, good to see you tonight. We had a great conversation Sunday night. A couple of days have passed, and really nothing, earth-shattering new to report in Syria. A couple of different things going on, Jeemes. But I do want to ask you, now that you've had 48 hours to sort of think over, what's going on there in that Middle Eastern country, what's your thoughts going forward? And if you've got any news to report, go ahead and give that to us tonight. But it's a very intriguing situation that's taken place over the last week, man. I tell you what, the Middle East has changed, hasn't it?
It has really changed. I was listening to someone in the Middle East that was talking about Israeli jets, taking off, dropping their bombs, coming back, reloading, and taking off again. And I am telling you what, they have decided that they've had enough of this enemy on their borders, and they gave them a chance. And I mean, they are just wiping out just everything that could provide a future threat to them in Syria. It's been an amazing campaign. I was in the Air Force, and so I can appreciate an air campaign like this. You have to feel sorry for the people on the ground that's on the receiving end, but the Israelis have just said, okay, this is an opportunity, this is an open door, and we are going through it. And the United States also has been making a few bombing runs of their own against identifiable ISIS elements. And so this situation in Syria, we're at the beginning of the beginning, and I'm telling you, it's going to be interesting to watch over the days and weeks ahead.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. We talked about this Sunday night, and I want to sort of circle back to it because there is a growing sentiment, Jeemes, that the Turkish government has financed these rebels. Brad basically put that out there last night, and I know I saw some Twitter handles, and Brad predicted this last night. He said, what I'm about to say, he said, watch the internet tomorrow. He said people will start picking up because they usually listen to what he says. It goes back out there and parrots it and says it themselves. And he basically, broke news last night that he feels like that the Erdogan government is behind this destability of Syria. Russia, of course, has taken Bashar al-Assad in, but he believes that this is a push by the Turkish government to reestablish the supremacy and do an Ottoman Empire reboot. But let's just face it, these new terrorists, and I think that's why Israel has acted and reacted the way she has with the bombings, and I don't blame her. I mean, there's no you can't get around this, that these are not good people coming in. I've seen some other people try to, sugarcoat this and say, well, we've got rid of a dictator, and the White House is putting a big spin on it. Joe Biden's the big hero, and he stepped in and saved Syria from Bashar al-Assad. But only Joe Biden could take a victory lap when he's basically handing Syria over to worse butchers than Bashar al-Assad could ever have been in his family for 50 years. Because these people are ISIS Jeemes 2.0 Afghanistan, and that's what the word I heard even in one of the reports. Somebody that was on the ground there, they said you were watching Afghanistan 2.0 redevelop, and Brad said last night that he feels Turkey's got their hand in this. I'm just curious how you feel about that from your perspective.
Well, I tell you, there was. I saw it today. I think it was in the London Sunday Times, a piece by Simon Montefiore, I think is how he pronounces his last name, whose book on Jerusalem is absolutely, anybody that's interested in the Middle East is a must read. And he had an article that talked about the collapse of the Assad dynasty, and he went into really vivid detail on as many as 600,000 civilians and the prisons and this, that, and the other. But one of the points he made during this article is what Brad's alluding to, is that Erdogan in Turkey has visions of himself restoring the old Ottoman Empire with him at the head of it.
Yes,
and we're starting to see his hands behind a number of things that are going on, and it couldn't be clearer than in Syria, because Brad's right on point in terms of financing some of these really notorious groups, and pursuing a strategy to try to keep the Kurds at bay, and it's looking more and more like Turkey's strongman is playing a very active role.
Without a doubt. But was that not what Saddam Hussein did to a degree, and it failed? Do you think that this succeeds? Because I don't. I think that Turkey has a lot more enemies that would stand up to her than she thinks. And I may be wrong about this, because again, the Middle East is a complicated old bear, my friend. What the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And there's a lot of people. I guess it's going to come down to who, sees the threat that Turkey poses as compared to the hatred of Israel. And I hope that the first wins out over the other, because it is a complicated area. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you hope that cooler heads will prevail, but you can't be sure, Jeemes, right now.
Yeah, and two, there's a Russian card to all of this. If you go back into the history of the 19th century, and since nobody studies history anymore in colleges, nobody's aware. But the Russians and the Turks have gone to war numerous times.
That's
and,
right.
And there's no love lost there, and there's a lot of speculation that what happened in Syria, that Putin may have gotten overconfident with his successes in Syria, and it emboldened him to act in the Ukraine. But sooner or later, especially if the Turkish throw weight grows in the Middle East, Russia and the Turks are going to be at odds. Putin has his hands full right now, in the Ukraine. But the Russians were dealt just a disastrous loss, not only in terms of billions of dollars of military equipment that now is, just turned into rubble heaps, but also going back to Brezhnev, when Bashar Assad's father, came up with a sweetheart deal with Brezhnev, that Brezhnev would support the regime in Damascus if he had naval rights to the Port Tartus on the Mediterranean Sea. all of that grand strategy that the Russians had going back to the Soviet Union and Brezhnev have just gone up in smoke. And we talked on the last program, the Iranian plan and Qasem Soleimani that Trump gave the okay to hit, which was the absolute Iranian mastermind in the Middle East. This whole strategy of a ring of fire to encircle Israel with these Shiite militias and groups in various parts of the Middle East. All of that has gone up in smoke. What we have seen in the Middle East in the last 2 weeks, Chris, has absolutely changed the strategic landscape of the Middle East completely. I mean, absolutely completely. And everybody's sort of trying to figure out, okay, well, what comes next now? And you're starting to see in Syria, even though they talked like they were going to be moderate, they took their game plan from the Taliban in Afghanistan. You're starting to see them show these thug groups, terrorist groups, starting to show their hand with massive public executions and all of those things. That's in their DNA. They just can't get it out of their system, and so we are going to see a steady diet of that, and there's going to be a lot of finger pointing. There's going to be a lot of people trying to lay the blame at everybody else's doorstep, and all of that is just beginning. We're at the beginning of this thing.
Let me ask you this. I've had some, we've got a dear friend that is Greek, and she sent me something today from Irene Russman. The Greeks are basically looking at this very carefully right now because they're concerned that this is going to trickle over into their neck of the woods. And also, you mentioned the Iranians, James. We've got you've got Turkey, you got Syria, you've got Greece, you've got Israel bombing the you-know-what out of these Syrian air bases. Look, I don't think Joe Biden no more cares about the situation. He's just trying to save face right now. You know, and for him to basically rejoice, you know, that this is a good thing, it's ludicrous. And I think that he's just trying to, you know, make it seem like he cares about the Syrian government and the Syrian people. He don't. But Israel's got more of an interest because Syria sits at her front step at the Golan Heights, which has been a contentious area for 5 decades. And my point in saying all these nations is that there is a good possibility that we're going to be looking at a slaughter of Christians and Jews and other nationalities, Greeks, anybody that does not adhere to Islamic law. There's already videos surfacing that women are being treated, even in the first week of this jihad that really took down Bashar al-Assad. And Brad made an excellent point last night about Assad. You had brought it up Sunday night, that Assad was sort of an agnostic. He was sort of an atheist when it came to Islam. He didn't fit in with the Sunnis. He didn't fit in with the Shia. And they considered him an apostate, and that was one of the reasons why he was so protective of the minorities. And my question to you is, and we just sort of bounced this off each other Sunday night, but I think we were unclear as to where this was, you know, what this was going to do and happen, and I think it happened so quickly. But as you look at this 48 hours later, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, 1 being the best, where's the state of Christians now and Jews and other nationalities in Syria? And if I was them tonight, James, I tell you what, if there's anybody listening to our voice tonight in Syria, and you're not a jihadist Muslim or a Islamist, hardcore Islam following person, I would suggest you be getting your family and getting out quick if you can. because I think there's going to be a lot of blood on the ground there, my friend. And I think what Assad, look, Assad was a butcher, a monster, gassing his own people at times, but he protected Christians, and that's just the anomaly of this whole thing. But it's not boding well for minorities there in Syria going forward. And you mentioned just now, every day is going to be a challenge, and I think that it's considerably dangerous time for it is a considerably more dangerous time tonight for Christians than it's ever been in Syria.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think if you're a Christian family, that has your generations going back for several generations have a proud heritage in Damascus and other parts of Syria. You are trying to figure out a way to get out of Syria. The problem is that the places you would go to are putting pretty much a lockdown on any sort of Syrian refugees coming to their country now. Almost all the European countries, have closed the door to Syrian refugees coming to their country because they don't want the trouble to come to their doorstep. And so it's an interesting situation. If I'm a Christian in Damascus, that my forefathers have been there and have learned to survive. This is a different breed of cat altogether. I'm looking at a way to get out of there.
Do you see ISIS reemerging through this?
This is a metamorphosis of ISIS. Of what we're seeing, they may bury the name for public dissemination, but for all intents and purposes, that spirit is exactly the same.
Okay.
And that's what we're seeing emerge to the fore. The people that they point to in the past as sort of their ideologues and their religious foundational leaders and lights and models are exactly the same. And so that bodes poorly for Syria. And then you just have it's just so complicated. All of these groups, even within the groups, there are schisms, and there are those that say that people in this faction or this tribe, they're not religious enough, and it's just a messy situation that's going to take some time to sort out. And in the process, you mentioned it, there's the historical antagonism between the Turks,
absolutely,
certainly the Greeks, and all of these historical antagonisms are going to be exacerbated by all of this violence that's going on. And so I cannot stress it enough. It's the beginning of the beginning, and I'm not sure anybody has seen the end game.
Okay.
In terms of human understanding, there's a prophetic understanding about it, but I'm speaking about in terms of human understanding.
The geopolitical.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's calculated what's going on there.
Okay, let's move the ball forward a little bit to January the 20th when President Trump takes office. Does he have the wherewithal to step in and look? He bombed the living below out of ISIS before, and I do believe that there is a understanding with this new, because this prime minister, they put a prime minister in place today, literally. We put that story on our Telegram page, and there's a new, you mentioned the variation of the terrorist groups, there's a new terrorist group that they're under, But do you think that they have got a lot of memory? Do you think their memory serves them well to what Trump did in 2017, and they're not going? That they are a little bit going to be less likely to do some of this stuff with him in office as compared to had Kamala Harris won in November?
Yeah, well, they certainly are showing a little bit more savvy in terms of public relations, because they're trying to give the impression to the international community that they're going to be moderates. They're opening statements and this, that, and the other. But the proof is in the pudding. You know, you had a number of former Syrian army officers shot without a trial. You know, public executions are coming back to the fore. And all of those things, as I said before, it's just Chris, it's in their DNA.
It is.
They can't change what they are. That spirit has to respond in that way, and so you're just going to see it now. They will try to apply some window dressing, and certainly a lot of that window dressing is directed towards Trump. You know, and
I feel the same.
Incoming administration. I think there's no doubt about that, and so you know. I mean, the Syrians, if you go back to the Obama administration, Assad and his crew just busted one red line after another that Obama would set up. Nothing was done about it. And so they had that sort of image of Obama, Biden, and that crew that was running Washington. Trump presents sort of a wild card factor for him. They don't know what he's going to do. And in the past, you know, he responded forcefully and took, in my opinion, one of the most decisive decisions when he took out Soleimani. I cannot emphasize how gifted and talented in terms of strategy in the Middle East that guy was.
For Iran,
And as the Iranians, the IRGC commander, and I'm telling you, that was a big decision by Trump during his previous administration. And so they have to take those things into consideration. That's part of the optics that they're trying to present now to everyone. And certainly they've got Trump in mind with all of those things. And you have those, Diego Garcia. Not only do you have the carriers, but you have the B-52s on Diego Garcia, and now the Israelis have taken out all the radar and the defensive missile systems. You know, they did the United States just a tremendous favor in case the United States wants to go in there with either strategic or more conventional bombing against some of these groups that are antithetical to everything that we believe as a country and a people.
Well said, my friend. I want to change tone with you for a few minutes down to domestic things. Folks, you're watching a very special live McFiles Tuesday night. We're grateful to have you here tonight, and we will take some of your questions, and we may even let you ask James a question or two here in a minute. We got some videos to show you after this, but we hope that you're enjoying the show so far. I want to change course a little bit to domestic stuff. This kid that they've arrested, Jeemes, for this UHC healthcare, I know that everybody has got a opinion. He said something so weird today. In fact, if I've got it, I'm going to play this video for the people, if you don't mind, while we've got you on the phone. And they were taking him into custody, and he was saying something really weird. It's about a 21-second clip. I want you to listen to what he said, and I want to get your take on it.
Down.
Whoa, back up. That's completely untouched. And the insult to the intelligence of the American people and the life experience.
He basically said that this was an insult to the intelligence of the American people. They were taking him off in handcuffs, and he wasn't too happy about it. Why do you think that do you think Brad had a take that this was just a disgruntled kid that didn't like his health insurance policy with UHC? Have you given any thought that there was more to this? Because I've got a story, a follow-up tonight we're going to talk about with the audience. Nancy Pelosi's husband and her, there is rumblings that the UHC healthcare director Robinson was basically going to testify in Congress that Nancy Pelosi was trading with insider trading. And Jesse Walters even picked it up last night a little bit, this theme that Nancy could be serious. I know we joke about it a lot out here. She should be in jail, but James, there's rumblings tonight that there's investigations about to be launched in her and her husband's dealings, and it's incredible, this web that Washington D.C. gets itself into when these things happen. Do you think that kid, when he said this is an insult to the American people, what was your thoughts on that? But what is your bigger thoughts on this guy with United Healthcare? Do you think he's a nobody in the sense of there's nothing there and we just need to consider it a wacko kid that got mad and shot him?
Well, I mean, it's fascinating. My wife's been following it much more closely than I have. But if you take, like, Edward Snowden and some of these young people that have grown up, especially out of these family of means, a steady diet of like video games and everything else, it sets up this psychology. I read an interesting article today of this sort of, us against all of these capitalists that have all the cards, and we're the hero, almost like a sort of a video game mentality and this is setting up in some of these kids, and they're not down and out kids, and they're not kids that have an axe to grind because they're at the very bottom of the social ladder. These are kids that want to play the hero, and they're looking for a way in the world that they can do that.
Right.
And my opinion is that this kid is one of those, and it doesn't matter about the victim. Doesn't matter if the victim had two sons. It doesn't matter if the Department of Justice is ready to investigate him for insider trading. I'm not sure those things matter as much as we have, by virtue of our culture and social media, we have a group of young people, and they become zealots in these causes, whether they be for environmental change or climate change. I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm saying they're all looking for, they totally disregard the military or nationalistic types of outlets, but they're looking for a way that they can mean something in this life, and modern technology has alienated them in a sense, and this is the first of these types of things we're going to see, and so that may sound crazy to some of your audience. I don't know, but I think we have a sector of our society, young people, that are looking for a way to make a difference. They don't go to church anymore, so they're not going to make a difference by giving their lives to something greater than themselves. They're looking for sort of a fulfillment, a way to play hero in a way that's pleasing to a lifelong obsession with watching video games and other things.
Yeah, well, I tend to agree with that. I think it's worth playing out. But I tell you, there's just no coincidences right now, Jeemes. We had some excellent questions last night, excellent statements in the chat room, and I want to just reiterate a few of them with you tonight. There was a lady, Yolanda, and I didn't see her here tonight, but she basically, I thought, hit the grand slam of the year when she said that, Joe Biden has escaped 4 years without impeachment. And she said, even though it probably would have failed, it would have been good to have it on record that the Republicans at least tried to get him out of office because of the malfeasance of office that he exhibited. Trump, on the other hand, in the history books, is going to go down as somebody that they will scream about later when all of us are gone, that he was impeached twice with no context to that. And generations to come are going to, look at him in the light that probably is not going to be too favorable. And then they look at Joe Biden. Well, Grandpa Joe just ran the country into the ground, but he never got impeached. And then you had others. We were talking about this thing last night, and I think it was Amy Miller, and she mentioned the comment about, when these things happen, and if the Epstein list comes clean, because Kash Patel is basically hinting there's going to be a unveiling of so many things that we have been screaming for on the right to see. We want to see what's on that list. We want to see what's happening behind the scenes. We want to see what's on Hunter Biden's laptop and Anthony Weiner's laptop. Speaking of Weiner, he's getting back into politics tonight, from what I understand. But do you think that these coincidences are things that we need to just ignore and move on, or do you think that these are worth looking into? Because I think there's a lot of things that are left on the table right now that cannot be closed until we get some justice for some things that have been sort of left out there. And look, if Nancy Pelosi was insider trading her husband, and she's been out there doing the things she's doing to basically imprison Trump and, set these J6ers up, look, there's no lower part of hell that's hot enough for somebody like that to destroy lives of others while she herself is crooked. And look, I think if I was to do a poll right now, do you think Nancy Pelosi is crooked? I guarantee you I'd get a 98 to 2% yes. That's just how people feel about her. And I'm just curious, are these things going to come to pass? Or you think these coincidences are going to keep happening? Or do you think that we're going to put some dots together and there's going to be an explosion, just as you said, not in just Syria, but here domestically, over some things that have been sort of pushed under the rug for many years?
Well, my hope is that truth comes out, and that all of these people that have been playing this double game, been disingenuous, have profited from their own political time in office, are able to go from street organizers to being able to buy the wealthiest properties in Washington, D.C. and all of these types of things. I hope it all comes revealed. All of this trafficking of young women,
yes,
all of this filth that goes on in the corridors of Congress in terms of manipulating, controlling young women, and all of that. I hope every bit of it comes to light. But I'm not completely sure it's going to.
Well, I think that
it runs so deep on both sides of the aisle that I'm just not sure. They may make a couple scapegoat cases out of a couple people, but I'm not sure that it's all ever going to come to light to the degree that you and I would hope it would.
And I want you to keep that thought. And I'm going to talk about this with you about 10 more minutes. I'm going to let you go. It's been a great night to have you because we're pushing 11 o'clock here in the East. I talked to one of the things me and Brad got into a discussion about at the end last night. And I think you sort of answered the question, but maybe I can reword it differently and you may have a different take. I'm with you. There's a lot of things we want to see done. I think there's a cry in this nation's heart, Jeemes, for the truth. And we've not been told the truth. We wasn't told the truth about COVID. We were not told the truth about the 2020 election. We were not told the truth about Epstein. We've not been told the truth about a number of things that have hung over this country's head for going on 9 years now. There's a lot of things about the Obama administration that we have never been told. We don't know the truth about the IRS targeting conservatives under Lois Lerner. We know what the right feels about it, but we've never got to the bottom of what that lady did because she took immunity. Nobody went after her. I think there's a cry for justice, and I made it clear last night. Look, we don't cry for vengeance or revenge because that is not getting us anywhere. But if we don't have some form of retribution, James, because you've got people's lives that have been destroyed by the left. Roger Stone, Paul Manafort, Peter Navarro, Joe Rogan, Steve Bannon, Rudy Giuliani tonight, others that have literally went bankrupt trying to defend themselves against these frivolous charges. President Trump, look, President Trump's a billionaire, but it would scare us if we probably knew the money that he had to spend trying to defend himself from fraudulent charges. This case in New York, this Letitia James tonight with her arrogant you-know-what self says she's not going to drop this charge, this civil lawsuit against Trump in an arrogant manner. Jack Smith, he puts Trump's life through hell for a year. They raid his house at Mar-a-Lago, embarrass Melania, intimidate Barron, and Jack just goes off into the sunset. Okay, I quit. No big deal. I drop the charges with no payment, no retribution. Fannie Willis, the same thing in Atlanta. James, this country cannot keep having these things happen to our leaders on the right and there not be some blowback and somebody take responsibility and pay for this. And again, this is not about revenge, but there has to be justice and there has to be truth. And I'm with you. And I think what you're saying is that we may want it and we're not going to get it. Is that sort of what I'm hearing tonight?
Yeah, I would like for there to be an absolute accountability for every act that lacks integrity that we have seen over the last 10 years in this government. But now here's the problem. I'm just going to be honest with you, Chris. I have noticed one after another Republican conservative that has decided not to run again.
I saw that.
And they always give the same thing. Oh, it's to spend more time with the family. What it is somebody in Washington had dirt on them, and maybe that's not every case, but in many of the cases there is such a lack of integrity in Washington D.C. inside the Beltway that people have placed political gain above personal integrity time after time after time, and there are people that are poised to take advantage of that much more on the left, it appears to me, than on the right. And so, we're always seeing cases where people on the right, when they have this sort of leverage or have this sort of information, it's always sort of watered down, and it comes to nothing. It just all seems to flow one way. I am hopeful that in this administration, that they stick to their guns and they try to expose this filth, which makes politics such a dirty game inside the Beltway. I would love to see it exposed.
Do you think
I would love to see it exposed.
Do you think Kash Patel brings hope that he's going to, with the FBI, Brad wasn't a big fan of Ratcliffe being over the CIA, and I've been shocked a little bit, James, at Dan Bongino's name. Somebody asked that question last night. We didn't get to it. I've actually been shocked that Bongino ain't been brought in over the Secret Service, because their final report was pretty much scathing today over the failures in Butler back in July. But do you have hope that the renovation of these three-letter agencies are going to bring some revelation to this? Because I don't know Kash Patel that well, but my take on him, he's a no-nonsense kind of guy, and he's not going to be intimidated by the media. And, my favorite movie in the whole time is Tombstone. And there's a scene in it when Wyatt Earp has had enough, and he's got the cowboy down by his boot with the gun pointed to his face. And he says, Ike, he says, you go tell your cowboy friends if I see a red sash, I'm going to kill the man wearing it. And he said, you tell him that I'm coming, and hell's coming with me. And I think that you got to have some fear on the left, James. I think it's a good thing that they're scared. And I think if they're scared of Kash Patel, that's a good thing tonight. If they're scared of Matt Gaetz, I thought it was a good thing. If they're scared of Elon Musk and Pam Bondi and these people coming in and the media's having fits over it and needing an Alka-Seltzer 24/7, I think it's a good thing. Because when the left is scared, it's probably for the best of the country. What say you, buddy?
You'll have to move over on top of that soapbox for me to stand. I agree, but with this caveat that you don't replace one side of lack of integrity with your own lack of integrity pursuing all of that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I get it, but this is my point. But let me just say this, and not to disagree with you, but let me ask you a blunt question. All right, they don't have any integrity. Do you not believe if this election would have went the other way, that Donald John Trump would likely already be in handcuffs tonight and in prison, and there would not be arrest warrants being issued right now for every individual they could get their hands on to make an example out of the mega community on the left? James, I believe they would be doing it. And I'm going to tell you something else they'd be doing it. They'd be coming after people of faith. I do. And again, I understand your point. And I'm not saying that we lose our integrity and morals over it. And again, I'm not saying that we even go about this in a vengeful, spiteful way. I look at it this way, though, in this perspective. If the left doesn't, it's like any bully on a playground. They have bullied, they have weaponized the DOJ, they've weaponized law enforcement, they've weaponized the IRS, they've weaponized the White House, they've weaponized every instrument they can against the church, the country, conservatives, and look, and sadly, a lot of Republicans have thrown their lot in with this because of their hatred for Trump. When you have a bully, it's just like Liz Cheney yesterday, threatening people, saying, I dare anybody to come after me because there's going to be a price to pay. And I wanted to ask her, by who, Liz? Your warmongering daddy? You ain't got no friends left in D.C. And they're still out there intimidating, threatening. And James, at some point, the bully on the playground has got to be he's got to know this is unacceptable behavior. It's like a petulant 5-year-old child or 4-year-old child beating his fork at the table, wanting his potatoes and throwing his food all over the place. Well, I tell you what, let that little let a 4-year-old do that in McDonald's household. I'll let him know real quick who's in charge. And that's all I'm saying. I'm with you. I get what you're saying. I do, buddy. We don't need to lose our integrity. But I'm going to tell you this. I don't think we can't have to lose our integrity to fight for justice and make sure this does not happen in our American society again. Because, James, this country has been through hell over the last 8 years, buddy. With these investigations and everything that's been going on, we've been through hell.
Chris, I couldn't agree with you more on all of that. I agree with all of that. What I am saying, and I agree that if Kamala Harris had become president, she's not smart enough to run the country, my opinion. It would have been turned over to a bunch of elites behind the curtain to make all of the decisions, and none of them are Christian.
That's right.
And by the end of Kamala Harris's administration, I am firmly convinced, I could be completely wrong, that good Christian people would have been sent to re-education centers or camps.
Yes.
I'm absolutely convinced of that God put a stop there. I've got a lot of friends that will violently disagree with me on that point. But here is what I am saying. With the best of intentions of the people in the new administration, if they are pursuing it through a human lens, a political objective, and Jesus Christ is not at the center of it, it is all going to come to sawdust.
I'll agree, buddy. I'm totally with you on that. I am. And I think we're basically saying the same thing, James. Look, I get what you're saying, my buddy. Look, I fully, and this is what makes all this so horrible, because this is where the difference between us and the left has always been. We don't do the things like what happened with the verdict in Daniel Perry's case. What's going on right now? Black Lives Matter. His daddy, MSNBC Today, gloating and claiming that the guy that was trying to kill people on that subway needs justice because a young man was brave enough to stop him from hurting people, innocent people on the subway. But MSNBC tonight is screaming the fact that the one that needs justice is the guy that was wanting to kill people. And Black Lives Matter was out there yesterday. And that has been this tipsy-turvy thing. The right does not handle conflict the way the left does. We don't go burn cities down. We don't go burn buildings down. We don't do the things that they do. We don't try to assassinate Joe Biden like they tried to do to Donald Trump twice, and really 3 times if you count the incident in New York where they found the backpack with a possible explosive in it. We just don't do that. We fight with class. We fight at the ballot box. And it's what makes it so infuriating mad. And then you hear these media types boast, and you hear these politicians. Adam Schiff tonight. Adam Schiff is out there screaming to the world that it's just not presidential for a incoming president to be threatening a sitting president with impeachment. Like, Adam Schiff did that for 8 years, James. He was part of this impeachment hoax. And that is what gets under our skin so bad. And I feel the angst out there. I feel it. I feel it myself. And that's what makes it so complicated, buddy, because I agree with everything you just said. We got to handle things the right way for God to bless us. But I tell you what, it's very difficult right now to not want somebody's head to roll big time in Washington, D.C.
No, I get it. I get it 100%. But with this proviso, Chris, how many times have you seen people wearing a conservative label will covet the Christian activity to work for them, will promise to do all the right things, and when they get to Washington, they just become like everybody else? It's because there was no focus to do things right for Christ.
I'll agree, buddy. I'll agree.
And if you're doing it for the sake of political labels, conservative, whatever label you want to wear, and if Jesus Christ is not right at the center of what you're doing, and the wisdom of Christ is not prevailing in how you're going about it, then it is going to come to naught. It's not going to be any better than what you're trying to replace.
I agree. I'm not going to disagree with that. But a blunt question to you before we let you go: do you think that do you feel Trump is going to move ahead and not even address anything in the past? Do you think that he's going to just let all this go and move on?
To me, Donald Trump has a wonderful opportunity to change things for the better, and I am hoping that his instincts prevail in that direction.
Okay.
But I will take you back. Both of us are old enough to remember it. Probably the most gifted politician in Washington, and the one that could have made more difference than anybody else because of the time frame he was in, was Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton could not keep his zipper up, and he brought great damage to the presidency of the United States. And if Donald Trump, with all of this huge potential, if he cannot keep in check a desire for revenge, he is not going to go down. The legacy is not going to be the one that he wants to create for himself for the rest of the time.
Yeah. Well, again, and I will just say this: I don't see him wanting revenge. I don't think anybody, Jeemes, with a clear conscience and a clear clarity of mind wants revenge. But I do feel the cry for justice on both sides. And I think for 8 years, because of what they did to Trump the first time he was in office, what they've tried to do to him for the last 4, what they've done to his people that support him, the MAGA party, the MAGA conservatives, the conservatives in general, how they've lied, how they've called us every name in the book, garbage, everything they can just and insinuate that that the country is going to be torn. We're going to Trump's going to get into office and he'll become a dictator, which is exactly what Joe Biden has been almost for 4 years through proxy. Maybe Barack Obama and Susan Rice and others are running the country. We've lived under a semi-dictatorship for 4 years. And I think that, again, I'm with you 1,000,000%, but I do believe there's a thirst for justice, and there needs to be a house cleaning to the point that we get some closure on these things to find out what happened and let the chips fall where they fall. But I think that it's a festering sore that's never going to heal until we get some kind of closure and revelation on what happens in these situations. That's just my take, buddy. Hey, man, listen, great stuff tonight. You're always a blessing. And I joke around with you every time I let you go. I said, I'll see you next week just in case the world ends. And every time I say that, we come close to Armageddon, Akers.
It gets worse. It gets worse. Chris, I agree with you to the point that we need to have accountability for all of these acts that have been committed that violate every shred of integrity and decency that these people, when they're elected and go to Washington, ought to have. Truth needs to come out, and there needs to be accountability. I agree with that 100%, my friend.
I hope we get it, buddy. I do. Listen, I'm going to let you go, and I'll see you next week, unless the world ends and we're on the brink of Armageddon, and I call you up at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, man, you up? I'm on the air. I need you to come on. So hang loose is all I got to say.
Well, let me be a shameless promoter. The third book of my trilogy is out there. You can go online and order it. And if you sort of like the crazy stuff you hear me saying, there's more of it in the book. So,
I'm glad you can make any shameless plug you ever want to on my show. You got a free way to do that. Like, I had to put up with Johnson for an hour and a half last night. You're like Mr. Rogers compared to Johnson. So, I mean, this has been perfect. You know, this has been great tonight. No, we had a good time with him last night. Buddy, I appreciate you, and I'll see you next week. We'll have you back on again, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about then. God bless you, my friend.
God bless you, Chris, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I sure appreciate it.
Talk to you soon, my friend. God bless.
You bet. Bye.
Jeemes Akers, everybody. Put some fire in that house. We're right at an hour, folks, and it is getting a little late in the East. I'm not going to keep you long. I do want to play a couple of videos for you real quick. We're going to take your questions for about 10 minutes after a few of these videos. This is Adam Schiff today. Watch this. Watch this bullshit. My favorite term, bullshit. Bullshit from shift to shift. Roll tape.
On the day Donald Trump leaves office, the Justice Department may indict him.
Very strongly in favor of indicting the president when he is out of office.
I don't think the incoming president should be threatening his political opponents with jail time. That's not the kind of talk we should hear from a president in a democracy.
Don't you just want to look at him and say, do you really believe the bullshit coming out of your mouth? I just want to just ask him one time. Roll that tape again. Let me. It's probably not going to do it that way because these things always seem to get corrupted after we do that. So let me play it again from here. Is that not hypocrisy to the millionth degree, what you just saw there? Here's Adam Schiff in his own words in 2018, 2019, and today.
On the day Donald Trump leaves office, the Justice Department may indict him.
Very strongly in favor of indicting the president when he is out of office.
I don't think the incoming president should be threatening his political opponents with jail time. That's not the kind of talk we should hear from a president in a democracy.
Well. That's why we use the term bullshit when somebody is speaking bullshit like you just heard.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. That's a good-looking guy right there. I should have been Sherlock Holmes in another life. I just should have been Sherlock Holmes. I like that.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary, my dear Watson. It's elementary, my dear Watson. It is elementary, my dear Watson. It is. By the way, I mentioned Barack Obama yesterday. Speaking of bullshit, him and Adam need to cozy up together. Roll the tape.
There are going to be times, potentially, when one side tries to stack the deck and lock in a permanent grip on power, either by actively suppressing votes or politicizing the armed forces.
All right. Suppressing votes. Weaponizing political agencies. Are you joking me, Barack? Are you joking me, Michael's husband? Come on. Are you seriously? After what you did for 8 years, roll the tape.
Using the judiciary, the criminal justice system to go after opponents.
Whoa! Ho, 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 ho! Did y'all just hear that? Adam Schiff in 2018 said, we need to go after our political opponents. 2019, I hope Trump gets indicted and impeached. Oh, 2024, well, it's just done presidential. And Barack Obama's now decrying the fact, well, we just can't have the Justice Department going after our political opponents. I just want to ask these people, do you really believe the bullshit coming out of your mouth? And the sad thing is, folks, they do. And many of their followers do too.
And in those circumstances, pluralism does not call for us to just stand back and say, well, I'm not sure that's okay.
You know, and that's what I was trying to say, James. They don't think it's okay when it's done to them. This has got to be the most wussified party. And these men have got to be as feminine. I got another term for them, but it's a family show tonight, so we'll behave ourselves tonight for the sake of the kids in the house. But they can dish this crap out, but they can't take it. They can't take it. And they know they're about to get it.
In those circumstances, a line has been crossed, and we have to stand firm.
I tell you what line's been crossed, Barack. It wasn't your red line. Your red line was crossed 1,000,000 times. I tell you what line was crossed on November the 5th, buddy. You had your blanks handed to you in a handbasket. You had your blanks handed to you in a handbasket.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. It's elementary, my dear Watson. You gotta love this. You gotta love this, don't you? Anyway, you gotta love this. Mark McIntosh, good to see you. He says he lost it. The American people. What did you say there, Mark? The American people sees through the BS now. Mark, I hope we do. I hope we do. I hope we do. I'm concerned sometimes about that. I hope we have. I think more have than did probably 8 years ago. Even 12 years ago. And, you know, we're 2024, 2012, so that's 12 years ago now. 2008, you realize it was 16 years ago when Barack Obama got elected for the first time. It's hard to believe it's been that long. I sure hope so, Mark. I sure hope so. I hope you're right. I'm not so sure I can say amen to that fully. The stench of BO, Jason Miller. Travis Jordan says there are not too many coincidences these days. The political web is heavily entangled. Travis, you're absolutely correct. You are correct. Anyway, pathological sociopathic liar. That's what he is, Jeannie, over in Facebook. That is exactly what he is. I had something I wanted to download. Gotta get my glasses on or I'll download something I shouldn't. This is Jesse Walters. This is Jesse tonight on the one and only Nancy Pelosi. Somebody said they wouldn't have come in the show, but I put Pelosi's prison times are coming. Pelosi's prison times are coming. A coming round the bend. I'll have to write that song and sing it for you tomorrow night. Roll the tape. I thought that was a video. Come on. I thought it was a video. Where's the video of that? Where are you, Jesse? Well, I guess it was a, I bet you I downloaded the thumbnail. Well, anyway, I'll have that video for you tomorrow night. I don't have time to fool with it. But Nancy Pelosi was said to be charged criminally. Insider trader, and then nothing happened. Fast forward, we are hearing CEO of United Healthcare, who was gunned down and was set to testify against her for insider trading. I'll find that video, and we'll have it played. They had read the criminal complaint on the House floor within the last year, and so that's interesting. I'll play that tomorrow night. I'll play that tomorrow night. This is... let's see here. Scott Jennings, my new hero at CNN. One final thing, and then I'm going to take your questions tonight. Listen to this beatdown of the Crap News Network. Let me see here. That's the. I've been messing up. I've been downloading. There's the video, not the thumbnail. Here it is.
On a couple last hour. And he just made the point, too, look, typically the thinking is there's one president at a time. But in this case, just the visuals of it, you know, I'm looking at video right now of President-elect Trump standing there with President Macron, meeting with Zelensky.
Yeah, and what video do we have from the last few days of Joe Biden? He was in Africa a little bit, but kind of avoided the press. We see Jill Biden out a little bit. We saw him at the tree lighting ceremony, and he took his hat off, and his hair was crazy. I mean, thank God. We haven't had a functioning president. Let's just be honest. For God knows how many months. And thank goodness Donald Trump's willing to go represent this country on the world stage. He's not taken office yet, but you can already see the attitude change of the American posture and the posture of the rest of the world to the United States of America. We've had a weak presidency for 4 years. We will now have a strong president. Love him or hate him, this man projects strength. Joe Biden has projected weakness. I'm glad Donald Trump is there. This church, this cathedral reopening is a big deal to Catholics and Christians all over the world. Thank goodness Donald Trump made this trip. It makes America look good for the U.S. president to be engaged in a historical moment like this, so I'm glad he made the trip.
You can tell that CNN reporter was holding the vomit out of her throat. She couldn't stomach it. Here's that video I was going to play from Jesse. Jesse was referring to this right here.
This is to notify you formally, pursuant to Rule 8 of the Rules of the House of Representatives, that I, the Honorable Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Emerita and U.S. Representative for the 11th Congressional District of California, have been served with third-party subpoenas from the prosecution and the defendant to produce documents in a criminal case in United States District Court for the Northern District of California.
So Nancy Pelosi is being subpoenaed in a criminal case. What criminal case? That person who isn't Nancy Pelosi wouldn't say. Could it be related to the hammer attack on her husband, Paulie P? Because that trial starts next week. Does it have something to do with her husband's DUI? Or is there something behind door number 3? Maybe a little insider trading. The son's shady business dealings. We don't know. We asked Pelosi's office to explain. They said no comment. But subpoenas aren't nothing, especially in a criminal case. It suggests there's something Nancy does not want to hand over voluntarily.
And she didn't. Now, Jess, that was a few weeks ago, but what the connection here is, there is rumors, and that's all they are. We don't know this to be fact, but there are rumors that the UHC CEO, Robinson, was going to testify. I guess we'll never know now, will we? Because he's 6 feet under with 3 bullets in his head. And a psychopath kid in prison. You're probably not going to hear any more about this. I think Brad was right on. Within a week, this all was going to go away. And I'm looking at the poll, though, tonight, and about 76% of you do not believe it's a coincidence out of 64 people. Anyway, Peggy, riddle me this. How do you become a multimillionaire working in the Senate or House? Well, you peddle influence to Ukraine, and you peddle influence to foreign countries, Peggy. That's a simple one. That's a simple one. That's a simple one.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. It's elementary. It's elementary. All righty, that's all I got for right now. I'm going to have to work on getting these videos downloaded better. Pelosi and IPO had the same letters. They do. Jason Miller's in the house tonight. Good to see him. And interesting stuff. Jason's got a few takes on that. Let's see here. Jenny Castellanova said, I did make a comment last night that if that CEO killer was a paid assassin, was he a paid assassin? Jenny, I don't know, but I tend to agree with y'all. I think there's more to this, but what we out here think and what actually is going to be said to us and the truth is two different things. I mean, I'll just leave it at that. We'll pick this up Thursday night because we got a guest coming Thursday night, and we'll pick all this stuff up. All right, if you got 10 minutes. It's 11:20 in the East. It's late, and I'm going to give you your say now, like I always do at the end of every show. Rock the house. Tell me what you think. Give me a question. I'll take your questions. If you got any questions, you got 10 minutes. And so forth. Jason's favorite, Miller, I'm going to make a t-shirt with that on it. The House of Representatives initials are HOR. Jason puts that in every time we talk about the House of Representatives. And for good reason. For good reason. All right, if you got a question, you got 10 minutes. If you got a question or a comment about tonight's show, did you enjoy James Akers? Put some fire in that house if you did. And 10 minutes, and we're going to call it a night. Anything tonight? Any questions? Any thoughts? We're going to close the poll. 77-23. The question tonight was, do you think the shooting to the UHC CEO was just a coincidence or more there? No, if you believe there's more here. 75% to 25% believe that there is something more, and I tend to believe that too. But again, what we know and what we can prove and what's going to come out is two different things. Jeemes Akers, a great interview tonight, as always. Any thoughts on Syria real quick tonight? We're going to talk about Syria quite a bit this week. It's going to be our theme. I'm very concerned about the security of the Christians and the Jews and so forth. We're going to sort of shift gears tomorrow night to faith, and Dory West to be with me early. And then we'll have a special Wednesday night faith show as well tomorrow night. We're not sure what we're going to talk about yet, but I'm sure it'll have to do with some kind of end time stuff, because that's what we do on Wednesday nights. It's good to see everybody. Jenny says, my gut also tells me all of this about the CEO is going to go away. Jenny, I don't think we're going to hear this kid's going to go out so fast, just like the killer, the one that tried to shoot Trump at Butler. You've not heard a thing else about him, any background on that kid. The other crazy nut, they call it at the golf course, hadn't heard no more about that. And they just sweep these things under the rug. And I hope if Kash Patel is confirmed as the FBI, I pray that stops. I think that the American public deserves transparency. I know that we don't need to know everything that goes on behind the scenes at the FBI, but there are some things that need to be revealed to the public, because I think if that can take place, trust in our law enforcement returns. Right now, we don't trust law enforcement, and for good reason. And for good reason. Good to see old John Quallam in the house. Mark McIntosh, exactly. There was a huge stock dump the day before the CEO was shot. That's very interesting. Very interesting, and we failed to mention that. And you're absolutely right. That is never coincidental. Now, Miller, I'm sure Miller is going to come up with something with that one. And I'll read what he's got to say. Miller's my buddy. We're going to go, I think me and Miller need to go on tour. What do y'all think? I think me and him, we might be able to fill a pool room at a hot dog stand. Miller, we'd be a big hit at the nursing home. We'd probably go to the nursing homes. We'd have at least 20, 30 of the nursing home patients stick around because they couldn't go nowhere and listen to us. But I think it'd be a fun show. We'd have a good time. We'd have a good time. Inside job and Joe Biden's have the same letters. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Peggy, your questions about the drones, there's nothing on that. I asked Brad about that last night, and there's just nothing out there that we can put our finger on what they are, where it's from. Could be some kid, Peggy, on cheap whiskey at night, flying drones over New Jersey and don't realize that those drones are flying over people's houses. These days, you just never know. We're keeping an eye on it, though. If we hear anything, we'll definitely say something. All righty, that's about it. That's all I got. Looks like that's all the questions. Thank you all for being with me tonight. Did you enjoy the show? Did you enjoy James Akers? If you did, Cedric, you said, I've heard that 4 factions are fighting within Syria. Could Syria be divided up? Yep, it sure could, Carol. Not Cedric, but Carol. We'll talk about that more tomorrow night. We'll deal with the spiritual. We're going to be dealing with Damascus in the morning and what the Bible says about Damascus on the Bible study. Now, this Bible study in the morning on the Faith Network is going to be later in the morning. It'll be a late morning, early afternoon study. And then we'll be back Thursday morning and Friday morning with you at regular times. And then tomorrow night at 6, as of now, Dory West is going to be on for a half hour. She's got some things on her heart about the country she wants to share. And then we've got our Wednesday night faith study around 8:30, our Bible study. And that's always on the Faith Network. But you ex-folks, y'all get all of it, and Facebook as well. And we'll be back here on the news side Thursday night, probably a little earlier than this tonight, around 8:39, somewhere in that ballpark. And we'll pick all this up, and I'll have some more videos and some more of Chrisisms, as Dory calls them. And it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Wayne says, do you think Trump's election will may bring Armageddon closer? We'll talk about that more tomorrow night, Wayne, on the faith side. That's a faith question. There's nothing that happened in November, Lane, that is pausing or stopping the train going down the hill to Armageddon. I can tell you that. Does it pause it? Perhaps. Perhaps. But only God knows that. Only God knows that. I think our country geopolitically is going to be better off. But spiritually, that remains to be seen. That remains to be seen. And I think the train wreck going to Armageddon is tied more to the spiritual aspect of our nation right now than that geopolitical side. We're going to talk about that tomorrow night. So join me there on our faith side on Wednesday night on the Faith Network. If you've not subscribed to us here, be sure to subscribe to us, and we will be glad to have you on the Faith side as well. Listen, God bless you. God bless your families. We hope you enjoyed the show. I know we've been a little late tonight, and we hope that you will have a beautiful Wednesday. I will see you back here in the late to morning time on the Faith side. All shows on the Faith Network tomorrow. We'll be back here Thursday night and Friday night. Tip of the hat. We the people. And may the Lord bless you on a rollicking Tuesday night. Thank you, James Akers. One more time.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. I just love that. I got to get me a Boulder hat like that. I have just got to get me a Boulder hat like that. All righty. Have a good one out there. We'll talk to you later. Have a good night, everybody. See you tomorrow. Good night.